In the unforgiving Nebraska territory of 1867, a disgraced cowboy and a paralyzed woman, bound by a cruel marriage plot, forge an unlikely alliance. When ruthless outlaws target them, the plains will witness a partnership more dangerous than anyone could imagine. The big man Ezra had just floored was staggering to his feet, his face a mask of rage, while 3 other cowboys reached for their revolvers. Ezra was fast with his fists, always had been, but today felt different. Today felt like the end of everything he'd clawed his way toward in this unforgiving land. The other ranch hands backed away, their eyes cold, as if Ezra carried a plague. "You yellow-bellied snake!" bellowed Pete Wilson, wiping blood from his broken nose. "Running from them Apache like a scared rabbit. Jimmy died because of you." The words cut deeper than any blade. 3 months ago, Ezra had been Clearwater's finest cowboy, a man who could rope a steer before most could. Saddle up, whose horse moved like an extension of his will. Ranchers paid top dollar for his help on cattle drives, and his name carried weight in the saloons and bunkhouses of the territory. But that was before the Apache raid. His hands shook as the memory flooded back. He and Jimmy had been checking fence lines when the war party crested the hill. 15 warriors on fleet horses, their faces painted for battle, arrows slicing the air. Jimmy had grabbed his rifle and fired back, brave and foolish. Ezra, though, had felt his courage evaporate. Like water in the desert sun, he'd bolted, hiding behind a rock while his best friend fought alone. Jimmy died with 3 arrows in his chest, his body left for the buzzards under the relentless prairie sky. The Apache took his horse and rifle, but they left Ezra's shame to fester. Now, the whole territory knew what kind of man he was. "Get out, Hawthorne," said Murphy, the saloon owner, his voice weary rather than cruel. "These boys got every right to be angry. You've caused enough trouble." Ezra retrieved his dusty hat from the floor, the silence of the room heavier than the heat outside. These men had been his friends once, sharing campfires and stories, pulling each other through blizzards and stampedes. But friendship couldn't survive betrayal. He walked out, their eyes boring into his back, and stepped into the merciless Nebraska sun. Clearwater was a speck of a town, a single dusty road flanked by a general store, a blacksmith, a church, and the saloon. Most folks lived on ranches scattered across the endless grasslands, their lives tied to the land and the cattle. Ezra's cabin, 5 miles east, was a modest 2-room shack he'd bought with his savings, a dream of building something lasting. Now it felt like a cell. His horse, Dusty, waited at the hitching post, nuzzling his shoulder as he mounted. "Come on, girl," he whispered. "Let's go home." The hour-long ride through rolling hills and swaying grass was quiet, save for the wind and the chatter of prairie dogs. A red hawk circled above, hunting. The land was beautiful when a man had hope, but today it was desolate. At the cabin, Ezra unsaddled Dusty and let her drink from the trough he'd built last winter. The place was falling apart. Leaky roof, loose porch steps, weeds choking the foundation. He sat on those wobbly steps, staring at the empty prairie, alone with his guilt. As the sun dipped low, 3 riders appeared on the horizon. Ezra recognized them instantly. Buck Morrison on his black stallion, with Jake Patterson and Tom Wheeler trailing like hounds. Buck had been a friend before the raid, but he was also a man who relished others' misery. "Evening, Ezra," Buck called, his voice too smooth, like a snake pretending to be a dove. "Mind if we water our horses?" Ezra nodded toward the trough, wary. These men hadn't come for water. Buck dismounted, letting his horse drink, while Jake and Tom stayed. Saddled, their guns visible. "Been hearing interesting news in town," Buck said, fanning himself with his hat. "About your situation out here, living all alone, no wife, no family, no prospects." His smile was predatory. The boys at Murphy's think you need help." Ezra's stomach turned to ice. "Don't need help from anybody." "That's where you're wrong, friend," Buck said, glancing at his companions. "Heard about a family in trouble, got a daughter needs looking after real bad." Jake leaned forward. "Girl named Isabel Crane, pretty as a picture, or was before her accident." Tom added, "Carriage turned over 2 years back, broke her back, can't walk no more, been a burden on her family ever since." Buck's eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. Her uncle's desperate to find someone to marry her, offering $50 and a gold watch that belonged to her daddy. Ezra saw the trap forming, the coward and the paralyzed woman, 2 broken souls nobody wanted. "Why tell me this?" he asked. "Because we're your friends," Buck said, his tone mocking. "The Crane family needs someone to take their girl, and you need, well, everything. Seems a perfect match." Jake laughed. "Ain't like you got other options. No decent woman's marrying a man who runs from fights." The truth stung. Ezra's reputation was shattered. No family would let him near their daughters. But something felt off. Why were these men pushing this? "What's in it for you?" he asked. Buck's smile flickered. "Let's just say the Crane family's grateful to anyone who solves their problem. Grateful enough to pay a finder's fee." So that was it, a cruel transaction to offload an unwanted woman on an unwanted man. "I need time to think," Ezra said. Buck remounted. "Don't think too long, the family's desperate. Might start looking at other bachelors if you dawdle." As they rode into the dusk, Ezra sat alone, wondering if this was rock bottom or if he could sink lower. At dawn, a creaking wagon pulled up to the cabin, driven by a grizzled man who looked eager to be elsewhere. Ezra hadn't slept, pacing all night, torn between rejecting Buck's scheme and the lonely voice whispering that this might be his only shot at companionship. Now, watching the wagon, he felt like a man about to leap into the unknown. The driver climbed down, his movements stiff. "You, Hawthorne?" he asked. "I am." "Name's Henry Crane, Isabel's uncle. Got your bride here along with her things." The word bride sounded like he was delivering livestock. Henry untied the canvas cover at the wagon's rear. "She ain't much trouble, keeps quiet, sews nice, knows her letters, just needs help getting around." Ezra's mouth went dry. "Maybe I should meet her first." Henry pulled back, the canvas, revealing a makeshift bed of blankets. The woman lying there was nothing like Ezra expected. Isabel Crane was striking. Hair like autumn leaves, skin like cream. Green eyes sharp with sadness, and a hint of fear she tried to hide. "You must be Ezra," she said, her voice soft but steady. "I'm Isabel." He tipped his hat. "Ma'am, I'm glad to meet you." It was a lie. He wasn't glad, but politeness was all he had. She studied him as if reading his soul. "They told you about my condition?" "Yes, ma'am." "And you're still willing to go through with this?" Ezra glanced at Henry, already unloading boxes, eager to leave. "I reckon so." Isabel's smile was weary but not bitter. "Well, then I suppose we should get started." Moving Isabel into the cabin was harder than Ezra anticipated. She couldn't use her legs, and though slight, she was heavier than she looked. Henry helped, but his strength was fading. By the time they settled her on the bed Ezra had prepared, they were all breathless. Henry pointed to a wheeled chair in the wagon. "Special made for folks who can't walk. Cost more'n I wanted, but Isabel paid for it herself." Ezra wondered how a woman unable to work had afforded it. "I had savings," Isabel said, as if reading his mind. Henry unloaded her belongings, 2 trunks of clothes and books, a sewing basket, a wooden box she clutched tightly. "Arrangements are for 1 year, he told Ezra. "If it don't, work send her back, but the money's yours." He handed over a pouch of coins, 50, and a heavy gold watch. "This was my brother's, Isabel's daddy. He was a good man, deserved better than what life gave him." He met Ezra's eyes. "Hope you'll remember that." Then he was gone, leaving Ezra and Isabel in a silence that made the cabin feel smaller than ever. "I should explain the rules," Ezra said awkwardly. "About how this'll work, sleep-in arrangements and such." Isabel raised an eyebrow. "What rules did you have in mind?" His face burned. "You take the bed. I'll sleep on the floor or build a cot, and I don't expect... You don't have to pretend this is a real marriage," she said quietly. "I know why you agreed. You need the money, and I need a place to live, that's all." Her words should have relieved him, but they made him feel small. "It ain't just the money," he said, but couldn't explain further. The truth, that he was so lonely he'd married a stranger, was too raw. "I guess we'll figure it out as we go," he said. Isabel nodded. "I suppose we will." She wheeled to the window, gazing at the endless prairie. "It's quiet here, too quiet for most folks." "I like quiet," Ezra said. She glanced at him. "What do you do out here for work?" "Try to raise cattle, got about 20 head. Sometimes hire out to other ranches, but..." He stopped, unwilling to mention his ruined reputation. "Work's been scarce." Isabel turned to face him. "They told me about the Apache raid. My uncle said you ran and left your friend to die." The words were a gut punch. "That's true," he admitted. "I was a coward. Still am, I suppose. Are you? Or were you just a man who got scared once?" Ezra stared. No one had ever asked that. In Clearwater, one moment defined him. But this woman, a stranger with every reason to judge, was offering a chance to be more. "I don't know," he said. "Then we'll figure that out too," she said, her smile almost real. 2 weeks later, a pot of beans crashed to the floor as Isabel's chair bumped the stove again. "This isn't working," she snapped, her voice sharp with frustration. Sharing the cabin was harder than either expected. Space that felt lonely for one was cramped for two, especially with Isabel's chair. The doorways were too narrow, the counters too high. "Let me help," Ezra offered, rising. "No!" Her eyes flashed. "I have to do this myself." But as she struggled, Ezra saw the problem. "The cabin's the issue, not you," he said. "It wasn't built for two, especially not for someone using a chair." He knelt to clean the beans. "We need changes." "Changes cost money we don't have," she said. "We got your uncle's $50, and I got lumber in the barn from when I planned to add a room." Isabel watched him. "You'd change? Your whole house for me?" "It's our house now," he said. "Might as well make it work." Over the next days, Ezra threw himself into renovations. He widened doorways, lowered counters, built shelves at Isabel's height. The hardest task was a ramp from the porch to the ground, giving her freedom to move outside. "You're making a lot of noise," she teased from the window as he hammered. "Good things take time," he called back, "and loud hammers, apparently." Her voice held something new, hope, maybe, or relief that someone saw her needs as worth meeting. The work was grueling. Ezra's hands blistered, his back ached, but the labor felt right. For the first time since the raid, he was building, not just surviving. On the third day, as he worked on the ramp, Isabel watched from the porch. "You don't have to do this," she said. "I know." "Then why?" He paused, hammer in hand. Part of it was practical, but there was more, something he wasn't ready to name. "It's the right thing," he said. "Is that the only reason?" He met her eyes, her hair catching the morning light. "Maybe not the only reason." That afternoon, hoofbeats interrupted his work. 3 riders approached, strangers with hard faces and guns loose in their holsters. "Isabel, get inside," Ezra called. She didn't argue, her chair wheels, soft on the floor. The leader, a big man with a black beard and mean eyes, surveyed the property like he owned it. "Nice spread," he said. "Can I help you?" Ezra asked, steadying his voice. "Looking for work. Heard there's opportunities for men who ain't afraid of hard tasks." The way he said hard tasks made Ezra's skin crawl. These weren't honest ranch hands. "Don't have work," Ezra said. The man's eyes flicked to the cabin. "Heard you got a wife, pretty thing. Must get lonely for her out here." Fear turned to ice in Ezra's gut. Word about Isabel had spread, painting her as easy prey. "My wife and I like our privacy." The man's smile showed yellow teeth. "We might be in the area a while, looking for a place to rest our horses, get a meal." It was a threat, not a request. "Town's got a hotel," Ezra said. "Town's got sheriffs too. We prefer the countryside." The man's gaze hardened. "Heard you understand avoiding questions, what with running from fights." They knew his reputation. Someone had pointed them to a coward and his helpless wife. "You boys best move on," Ezra said, hand near his gun. The second rider laughed. "Or what? You'll run again?" The third, younger, stared at the cabin with hungry eyes. Wonder if the stories about his wife are true, about her condition. Rage surged through Ezra. "Get off my land," he said, low and final. The leader's smile faded. "You sure you want this, Hawthorne? Word is you ain't much when things get dangerous." "Guess we'll find out." The standoff stretched, the only sounds wind and restless horses. Ezra's heart pounded, but his hands were steady. He wouldn't run, not this time. The leader studied him, then backed off. "We'll be back," he said. "Count on it." As they rode away, Ezra stood watch until they vanished. "Ezra, are you all right?" Isabel called from the doorway, pale but composed. "I'm fine," he said, "but we might have trouble." "What kind?" He looked to the horizon. "The kind that tests if a man's really changed." The thunder rolled like distant cannons, and Isabel's needle paused in her sewing. "Storm's coming fast," she said, eyeing the coal-black clouds piling up. Ezra secured the ramp's final board and hurried to the cabin as wind whipped the grass. Nebraska storms could kill, and he wanted everything battened down. "Help with the shutters," he called. Isabel was already at the window, fastening them. They'd found a rhythm over the past week, her handling what she could from her chair, him taking on the rest. "Those men yesterday," she said as they worked. "Will they come back?" "Probably. Men like that don't make empty threats." "What do they want?" Ezra hesitated, then told the truth. "Money, food, maybe. They heard about your situation. Some think a woman who can't run is easy prey." Her hands tightened on her chair. "They're wrong," he added. "About you being helpless, and about me running if trouble comes." "Are they?" Her question echoed his own doubts. "I hope so," he said. Rain began as they moved inside, soon a deluge drumming the roof. Lightning lit the cabin, in stark flashes. "I've been thinking," Isabel said over the storm, "if this is our house, I should contribute more than sewing and cooking." She reached for her wooden box. "There's something I haven't told you about. My life before the accident." Ezra leaned forward, curious. She'd shared little beyond the basics. "My father owned a general store in Omaha," she said, opening the box to reveal a ledger of neat numbers. "After Mama died, I helped run it, kept books, managed inventory, dealt with suppliers. By 20, I was running most of it. Papa's eyes were failing." Pride warmed her voice. "We did well, better than most. I had plans to expand." Thunder shook the walls. "What happened?" Ezra asked. "After my accident, my cousin James took over. Papa had died, so James said a woman in my condition couldn't manage a business. Sold it within 6 months, claiming he was protecting me." Ezra saw the depth of her loss, not just her legs, but her independence. "Is that why your uncle married you off?" "Partly. James gives the family an allowance for my care, but I'm a burden. A husband meant one less mouth to feed." A lightning flash revealed movement outside. Ezra grabbed his rifle. "Thought I saw something," he said, peering through the shutters. "Probably a branch, but..." His instinct screamed otherwise. "Isabel, listen," he whispered. "Under your bed, third floorboard from the wall, there's a gun in oilcloth." Her eyes widened. "You hid a gun under my bed." "Your gun from your father's store. Your uncle gave it to me, said you might want it." "Papa's Colt," she murmured. "Can you use it?" "I could shoot a playing card at 20 paces when I was 16. The accident didn't hurt my hands or eyes." A board creaked on the porch, too deliberate for wind. Ezra doused the lamp, plunging them into darkness lit by lightning. "Get the gun," he said. Isabel moved to the bed, retrieving the pistol with practiced ease. "Papa said bad men work when honest folks aren't looking," she said. A voice called through the storm. "Hawthorne, we know you're in there. Open up." It was the black-bearded leader. "What do you want?" Ezra shouted. "Just to get out of this storm. Be neighborly," Isabel whispered. "They're lying." "I know," Ezra said, checking his rifle. "If shooting starts, stay low. Aim for center mass." "I understand." Her eyes held no fear, only resolve. The door shuddered under a heavy blow, then another. "Last chance, Hawthorne!" the leader yelled. The third impact splintered the frame. "Now we find out," Ezra muttered, raising his rifle, "if I'm still the man who ran from the Apache." The door burst open, and dark figures stormed in. The test he'd dreaded since Jimmy's death had arrived, and this time there was no running. The first gunshot shattered the lamp, spraying glass like shrapnel. "Down!" Ezra yelled, diving behind the kitchen table as bullets tore through. The wall. Isabel dropped low, her Colt steady. Lightning revealed 3 outlaws spreading out, the leader kicking over chairs, his men blocking the windows. "Should have been smart, Hawthorne," the leader roared. "Now we do it the hard way." Ezra's rifle boomed, hitting the youngest outlaw in the shoulder. He screamed, blood mixing with the rain seeping through the walls. "That's for threatening my wife," Ezra said, reloading. Doubt gnawed at him. 3 against 1, with a woman who couldn't walk. Bad odds. Fear urged him to surrender. But Isabel's voice cut through. "Behind you!" He rolled as the second outlaw swung a pistol at his head. They grappled. The man stronger, but Ezra's desperation won. Isabel's Colt fired, hitting the outlaw's leg. "You shot me!" he gasped. "I was aiming for your heart," she said icily. "I'm out of practice." Ezra kicked the man's gun away. "Give up, Hawthorne," the leader shouted from behind the bed. "You're making this harder." "Harder for you," Ezra replied, his fear giving way to focus. This wasn't the Apache raid. He was fighting for his home, his wife. "We know about the money," the leader called. $50 and that watch. Hand it over and we'll leave." So that was their goal, Isabel's dowry. "The money's mine," Ezra said. "Earned fair for marrying a—" "That ain't. Then that's charity." The words hit Isabel like a slap, doubt flickering in her eyes. "Don't listen," Ezra whispered. "They don't know us." "Don't they?" she murmured. "Isn't this just about money and convenience?" Hooves sounded outside. More riders. "Should have taken my offer," the leader laughed. But the door burst open, and Sheriff Coleman staggered in, badge gleaming, flanked by 2 deputies. "Drop your weapons," he shouted. "This is the law." The leader paled. "Sheriff, how—" "Mrs. Patterson saw riders head in this way in the storm," Coleman said. "Figured they were the bunch hitting ranches." The outlaws surrendered, outnumbered. Coleman surveyed the scene. "You did good, son. These men have hit 7 ranches, killed 2, hurt others. They pick targets they think can't fight back. Cowards with crippled wives." "Is that what you think I am?" Ezra asked bitterly. Coleman studied him. "I've seen cowards, son. They don't stand and fight when outnumbered." As the deputies hauled the outlaws away, the leader spat, "Enjoy your broken woman, Hawthorne. You deserve each other." The words lingered, poisoning the victory. Isabel wouldn't meet Ezra's eyes. "Is that what people think?" she asked. "That we're damaged goods? Does it matter what they think?" "It matters to me," she said, tears glinting. "I thought we were building something real." "We are," Ezra said, but doubt crept in. Had he married her for money? Was she here only because she had nowhere else? I need time to think, she said, wheeling to the window. As the storm faded, a new one brewed inside the cabin. Morning light streamed through bullet holes in the walls, a cruel reminder of their near death. Isabel sat at the table, a letter in her hands, her breakfast untouched. "It's from my cousin James in Omaha," she said. Ezra's stomach dropped. What does he want? To offer me a way out. He's reconsidered women in business, says he'll sell me half of Papa's store if I return. I'd have income, living quarters. She folded the letter. He'll pay you double what Uncle Henry gave as compensation. The words hit like bullets. He wants to buy you back? In a manner of speaking. What do you want? Her green eyes met his, heavy with sadness. Why did you really marry me, Ezra? Not the pretty words from last night, the truth. He sat across from her, hands clasped. The money was part of it. $50 is more than I'd seen in months. She nodded, unsurprised. What else? I was lonely, talking to my horse, like she could answer. The cabin was a tomb. Anything else? He searched her face. I was curious about you. The way you stood up to Buck that first day, the way you saw something in me others missed. You seemed unbroken, despite everything. Broken, she repeated. Is that what you see? What do you see when you look at yourself? She watched dust motes in the sunlight. A woman who ran a business now can't cook without knocking things over. Someone whose family pays strangers to take her away. That's not all you are, isn't it? If I could walk, if my family respected me, would you have wanted me? Or do you care because I'm as damaged as you? The question was a gauntlet. I don't know, he admitted. If you were that store owner, we'd never have met. That's not an answer. It's the only one I got. He walked to the window, the prairie endless. I know what we've built feels realer than anything in my life. Isabel's chair wheels creaked as she joined him. James says I can have my old life. Independence. Respect. Sounds like everything you lost. It does. She touched his hand. But it's not everything I've found. What have you found? A partner who sees my strength, who changes his house for me, who fights when others would run. I almost ran last night, he confessed. But I didn't, she said. Losing you scared me more than dying. Her smile broke through. That's the most romantic thing I've heard. Even from a coward. You're not a coward, Ezra. A coward doesn't rebuild his home, stand against 3 men, choose love over safety. She held up the letter. I'm telling James I have everything I need, a business partnership with the man I love. Business partnership? Her eyes sparkled. There's a trail 2 miles south. Travelers need supplies, food, rest. We could open a store together, use my business know-how and your rancher knowledge. You'd give up Omaha for that? My old life's gone. Our life's just beginning. 3 months later, angry voices carried from the main road. There they are! Buck Morrison's shout echoed. The coward and his wife playing house. Ezra straightened. From nailing boards for their new trading post, a structure taking shape amid the prairie's vastness. Isabel wheeled onto the porch, shading her eyes. How many? 8 or 9, Buck leading. Their success had drawn attention, cutting into bigger towns' profits. A thin man in a suit rode beside Buck. Mr. Hawthorne, he called. I'm Edgar Whitman, Clearwater Business Association. We need to talk. The riders dismounted, their faces a mix of anger and envy. Nice operation, Whitman said, his tone dripping disdain. Shame you didn't get permits. What permits? Ezra asked. Building, business, health inspections, Whitman said, waving a stamped paper. Territorial government takes these seriously. Buck grinned. Can't just open a store without procedures, Hawthorne. Isabel's voice cut through. Funny how these regulations only appeared after we started succeeding. Whitman reddened. This is about compliance, not prejudice. Then, why wasn't this mentioned when we filed our paperwork 3 months ago? Isabel asked. The paperwork was incomplete, Whitman stammered. It was perfect, she said. I've handled business documents since I was 16. A deputy, Marshal Hayes, stepped forward. Complaints have been filed, safety violations, improper documentation, interference with trade routes. Ezra's anger flared. What violations? Hayes read from a paper. Selling goods without inspection, building not meeting standards, undercutting prices. Isabel countered. Offering better service and fresher goods is competition, Marshal. It's legal. Buck laughed. Legal for real businesses, not a charity case pretending to be important. Isabel produced her ledger. Last month we served 47 travelers, sold $300 in supplies, sheltered 2 families in a blizzard. Whitman's eyes widened. 300? Check with customers, she said. The Henderson family, Murphy's cattle drive, Captain Morrison's wagons. Oh, that's your brother, Buck. Buck paled. Your brother bought supplies here, said we had the best prices. The riders shifted uncomfortably. Hayes looked unconvinced. I'll need all your documentation. Isabel led him inside. Ezra, help with the files. As Hayes reviewed their records, the others whispered outside. More successful than we thought. Can't shut them down this way. Hayes emerged, impressed. Your records are the most accurate I've seen. This operation's legal and well run. Whitman's jaw dropped. The complaints are groundless, Hayes said, glaring at Buck. Focus on your own businesses. Most riders left, but Buck and Whitman lingered. This ain't over, Buck said. You're still a coward who got lucky. Ezra smiled. I'm a coward with a smart wife and a successful business. What are you? Buck reached for his gun, but Whitman stopped him. Not now. Isabel joined Ezra. They'll be back. Next time we'll be ready, he said, hammering a nail with renewed purpose. Hoofbeats approached, but it was Captain Morrison, Buck's brother, with a freight wagon. Heard you had excitement, he said. Brought your Denver supplies and news. What news? Isabel asked. The territorial government's planning a mail route past your door, 3 times a week, starting next month. They need a mail stop. Interested? Ezra and Isabel exchanged glances. Very, she said. Their enemies had miscalculated, drawing attention to their success. Now it was poised to grow. Fire lit the night sky as Ezra raced toward the trading post, smoke stinging his eyes. He'd been in town when the blaze started, and now, 2 miles out, the glow was unmistakable. Please let her be safe, he prayed, spurring his horse. Cresting the hill, he saw the store engulfed but the cabin untouched. Isabel, silhouetted against the flames, directed neighbors in a bucket brigade. Ezra, she called as he dismounted. Are you hurt? I'm fine, she said, her voice breaking as the store's roof collapsed. How'd it start? I smelled smoke from the cabin. By the time I got out, the back wall was burning. Tom Henderson, a neighbor, approached. We tried, but the fire was too fast. More neighbors arrived. Johnsons, Pattersons, Mrs. Mackenzie, strangers turned allies. By dawn, the store was ash. 6 months of work, Isabel whispered. All our supplies, inventory, we'll rebuild, Ezra said, though doubt weighed heavy. Sheriff Coleman arrived, holding a coal oil bottle from the ruins. Fire wasn't an accident. Captain Morrison rode up, Buck bound beside him. Found him selling your goods in Millerville, he said. Buck glared. You can't prove nothing. Coleman disagreed. 3 witnesses saw you riding this way, and the storekeeper noted the smoke smell. Why burn us out? Ezra asked. Buck snapped. You were destroying everything, taking customers from 3 counties. By providing better service, Isabel said. That's business. Coleman added, the governor's sending an investigator for organized harassment. Neighbors offered help, food, lumber, labor. Mrs. Mackenzie gave Isabel a bag of coins from the community. "Why?" Isabel asked, tearful. "Because you helped us first," Tom said. "Supplies on credit, shelter, warmth in the blizzard." Ezra felt part of something bigger. "We'll rebuild," he said, "bigger, better." The community rallied, and the war for their future began anew. A golden ribbon stretched across the new trading post, twice the size of the old, designed for Isabel's chair. Half the territory gathered for the reopening. "Can't believe." "The crowd," Isabel whispered. Ezra noticed a lone rider on a distant hill watching. Mayor Stevens spoke. "This couple faced adversity, arson, jealousy, but they didn't quit, and this community didn't let them." Applause erupted, but Ezra's unease grew as the rider moved closer. Sheriff Coleman handed Isabel scissors for the ribbon. A gunshot splintered the porch post near her head. "Down!" Coleman shouted as panic spread. The rider, Edgar Whitman, galloped toward them, screaming, "You ruined everything!" He fired again, shattering a window. "He's lost his..." "Mind," Coleman said, aiming his pistol. "Too far for a shot." Isabel raised her Colt. "Not for me." "Isabel, no," Ezra said. "I won't miss," she said, firing. The bullet hit Whitman's rifle, throwing him from his horse. The crowd cheered as Coleman secured Whitman. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" Ezra asked. "I could hit the ace of spades at 16, she said, smiling. Isabel addressed the crowd. "I thought I was broken, useless. I was wrong. Worth comes from connections, lifting each other up." She cut the ribbon, and the crowd surged into the store, marveling at its design. Martha Caldwell, from the Territorial Women's Association, approached. "We'd like you to speak in Denver about overcoming adversity." Isabel's eyes lit up. Caldwell added, "The governor's considering you for the Commerce Commission to ensure fair practices." Isabel hesitated. "I'd need to discuss it with my husband." That evening, Ezra urged her to take the commission. "You'll help the territory." "What about our store?" "It'll be here. We face what's next together." 3. Years later, Isabel addressed a packed Denver auditorium, her voice confident. "People said we were broken, settling out of desperation. They were wrong. Being broken means you're ready to rebuild stronger." Ezra, in the front row, swelled with pride. The Hawthorne Fair Commerce Act, born from their struggles, passed unanimously, protecting honest businesses. A man, James. Whitman interrupted, accusing them of ruining his brother Edgar. Isabel responded calmly, detailing the evidence against Edgar: arson, theft, witnesses. Governor Harrison backed her, praising their trading post's success. The community, customers, neighbors spoke of the Hawthorne's impact, silencing James. He left, defeated. On the Capitol steps, Isabel asked, "Do you ever think about if Buck hadn't brought us together?" "Sometimes," Ezra said, "but we'd have found each other. Some people are meant to be partners." Hand in hand, they watched Denver's lights, ready for new challenges, their love and community, stronger than any obstacle. From a cruel joke, they'd built a legacy, the pride of the plains, proof that beauty grows from broken ground.